I have the privilege of speaking with Ryan Walter from the Miracle on Ice team, and he's got a tremendous history in professional sports, 30 some odd years, and he's written some pretty extraordinary books on the inner game of sports and becoming a winner versus second place. And I'm very excited to share your point of view with our listening audience out here in the Storrs, Connecticut area. Let's hop on in. When you were on the Miracle team, how was your mind game?
Yeah, that was an interesting opportunity. I played professional hockey for many years and then broadcasted hockey. And a friend of mine came to me one day and he said, the Disney is going to shoot a movie called Miracle. And they're going to shoot it in Vancouver, and they need a hockey expert. They need somebody behind the scenes that will help, make sure the movie's shot right. And he said, Ryan, I think that's you. And so I interviewed, and they gave me the job, and I worked for about 4 or 5 months behind the scenes just to make sure that everything was working and that hockey looked like hockey. And after about 3 months, they gave me, they were happy with my performance, and so they made me the referee between the U.S. and the Soviet Union, and so I actually got a part in the movie.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I become the referee that everybody's mad at, and but it was a really fun part.
It's a brilliant movie. Rarely do I watch all the special effects, but this movie really captivated me. So how closely related were they?
Well, very close, actually. We spent a lot of time making sure that most of the things were authentic. We talked, obviously, to Herb Brooks, who was the actual coach before he passed away, and to many people around, the actual event to try to make it as connected as possible. But the one thing that I found very interesting was that, the Disney didn't see this as a hockey movie. They saw this as a period piece. It was really more about, even though hockey was the metaphor, it was about, the Cold War, the U.S. against the Soviet Union. And, I didn't really see that until I was told that later. I always thought it was a hockey movie.
Yeah, I just thought it was a miracle movie. I was so inspired by the way the whole team gelled and how the ego spirit was broken, and everybody seemed to just really reach down deep into who they really were and gel and play as one team rather than as a segmented force. And that, to me, is what came through in the movie so extraordinarily well.
Well, thank you. And, that's a good point. I often use the movie Miracle, and I have permission to take little pieces of it. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the Tuckman model, but Bruce Tuckman suggests that a team goes through 3 or 4 different phases. Forming, they come together. Storming, they have conflict. Norming, they feel better about their team. And then finally performing. And those 4 are really well illustrated with the U.S. team, the 1980 U.S. team in Miracle.
Those 4 pieces apply to any type of group, not just to a sports team. But as I was listening to you, I was thinking, well, this is really kind of how a whole family structure comes into play, too.
Yeah, that's very true. Eaglemoon, the one thing that when you say that, it really struck me. I use that technique, and I use the video as a visual when I do a lot of leadership development, team development for corporations. Mm-hmm. And boy, that's a powerful metaphor. To use the sports metaphor where they can actually see the different actions and behaviors, and then we talk about where. This is a cool question. Where is your team or family now? So, have you come together? Are you storming? Are you sort of norming but not performing? Or, are you performing? And then the second question is, if you're wherever you're at, how can you get to the next level? So, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
There's something about the whole team and the group dynamic that really, really captivates me. And the synergy of a team where everybody is playing at their top, and then they bring that synergy all together, and then the team just plays so brilliantly. I love it.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's something about that, isn't there? When things come together, I think probably the reason it's so exciting is that so many times, and I've played on teams all my life, there's many times, where teams don't come together, and where ego gets in the way or personality disrupts things, and or there's not a strong vision. But yeah, no, I love when teams come together, and I was really fortunate. I'm coaching here in Vancouver with the Vancouver Canucks now, and our team really came together this year, and so we were very proud of it.
So how many years have you been coaching the Canucks?
This is my first year coaching. I was fortunate to come back into the game of hockey. I played 15 NHL seasons and then broadcasted for about another 15, and then just really felt that I needed to get into coaching. Over the last 5 years, I finished a master's degree in leadership business.
Cool.
So, yeah, so it was really, really sort of, I guess there's not too many hockey players that have done that, so they wanted me to help coach the team this year, and I had a blast doing it.
I read the other night online that the International, IIHL, I'm going to get it wrong, International Institute of Hockey, up in Canada.
IIHF.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Has rated the Miracle on Ice team one of the most important events in hockey history. Any comments on that?
Wasn't that something? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that at the time it was an important event, and it really showed that not always the most talented team wins, but the best team wins. And those are two different things often. And no, it was a huge event. I think the other, one of the reasons it was so big was it played out right in Lake Placid, New York, and so to be able to win the gold medal at home on U.S. soil was pretty amazing.
Yeah, U.S. ice. Yeah.
U.S. ice, that's right.
They talk about how so many children were inspired to go and play hockey after that event. And that brings me to a subject of the evolution of sports and the subject of steroids. I'm really excited about this whole change in the event of the athlete. I really believe that we are creating an authentic, natural athlete. Now I'm feeling like there's this whole evolution of a more authentic player. Any comments on that in the evolution of sports?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. I think that there is absolutely no doubt that there was quite a concern, I think, especially in baseball. Things have been revealed in the last little bit, and football. It's interesting, in the game of hockey, we have not had a steroid issue yet. I'm sure there's some of the players on steroids, and I'm sure that, it's not just a baseball or a football issue. But I like the idea of cleansing, and I think that that's probably what sport is going through right now.
Yeah, I think that's the truth, too. And I'm finding that the collegiate athlete is really waking up, as well as the high school. I'm having a lot of high school students come to me, high school athletes, and they want to shift their game. And in our community, there's been one model where a lot of the athletes have seen him. He shifted his game into a more holistic, and he's done like subliminal hypnosis programs and Reiki and EFT and different things to just really do the inner game, like you talk about in The Hungry Spirit. Yep. And I think that there's a lot more of that going on, and people are going to become much more open about that. Any feedback? Yeah,
no, I would agree with that. I think that At the same time that this steroid issue came out, there was, and I don't remember the exact study, but there was a study taken with amateur athletes, and they asked a question: if taking steroids would, or they didn't say steroids, they said if we could give you a magic pill and you took it, and it would guarantee that you would play professional sports, but that you could, one of the side effects is you might die early or get cancer, would you take the pill? And unfortunately, the vast majority of people that were polled said yes. And so, there is a real issue around, I want to play professional sport at any, at any cost. And I think that the steroid issue is bringing that to the forefront and hopefully making some changes there.
That brings me to this hungry spirit that you talk so brilliantly about in your book. The word hungry was just it's such a potent, incredible word for spirit. And I remember in the last 6 months, I've been feeling like I was starving for something. And no matter what, I just didn't feel satisfied. I was starving. And I remember hearing myself think, God, I'm starving. And I started to think, well, what is it that I'm starving for? And it was that passion of life, that passion for a higher ideal, a passion for just really digging down deep and finding out exactly who I am. Yeah. And I think this word hungry spirit is so rich for not even just the athlete, but for so many different people who are having weight concerns. Are you eating because you're feeling so depleted and you're not nourishing your hungry spirit?
Yeah, it's an interesting, Eaglemoon, that's a very interesting and perceptive point. That's one of the reasons that I wrote the book, Hungry. The sports metaphor is really a good metaphor to play in regards to life. And I've always felt that the two go together so well, because you can play in sport and sort of have things accelerated, and then you can take the principles back to the game of life and sort of make, real change. Your point on purpose is fascinating because it's one of the things that we point to. We have a chapter in the actual book, and I only sent you, obviously a few pieces of it, but we have a chapter called Purpose and Passion. And the point is that without purpose and passion, you really can't understand how to stay hungry. One of the pieces in the book is, and I guess one of the reasons I wrote the book was that I saw lots of very talented people in our sport that never made professional sport because they had the talent, but they didn't have that hungry spirit. They didn't have the drive.
Yeah.
And so we look at a quadrant of purpose and passion. Now, you'll chuckle, but on the low side of passion and the low side of purpose, we call that portion of the quadrant ambivalence.
Yeah.
And people live in ambivalence and need to recognize that that's not something that they want to stay in. You go to the high end of purpose, you sort of got to imagine in your mind, and the low end of passion, then you look at a word that I call frustrated, because you know what the purpose is, but you don't have the energy or the passion to get it done. You go to the far end of passion, the low end of purpose. The word there is entertain. You can, if it's not a high purpose item, you can be entertained by almost anything, but after 2 hours and some popcorn, you're on to something else.
Right.
And then finally, the high end of purpose and the high end of passion is a portion of the quadrant that we call hungry. And that's where people, when they're in that zone, they stay hungry. Hungry is not just I'm hungry for this week. It's a purpose and passion. And so, yeah, we're excited about that. And then, later on we look at 7 qualities, or I guess we call them ingredients, that help people stay hungry.
Do you want to explain that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we start with visioning, and the quality of visioning is I think, one of the number one qualities. I think it was Jim Rohn that once said, do you have the top 100 things you want to do in life on a piece of paper? And the point is that as you and I and the people listening, really solidify what we're purposeful and passionate about, and we have a strong vision of where we want to go and what we want to be, then we're hungry towards that. And that's one of the key pieces, absolutely.
Yeah.
The second quality is believing. And, people say, well, that's pretty general. That's, pretty simple. Absolutely is. And yet, when you look at the believing, we talk about things like confidence. How do you sustain confidence? And how do you do that to really sustain your hungry spirit? We look at a third quality is actually the quality of framing, and I found that in I learned about this in the movie Miracle. I asked the director, Gavin O'Connor, how do you build a movie? And he said, one frame at a time.
So it's like one step at a time, you're saying.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's what do we focus on to create the vision?
Right, right.
The fourth quality is the quality of deflecting. I've always felt that this life is not about me or us. It's about, other people. And Zig Ziglar has a great thought. He says, if you really want things in life, you can have anything in life if you help enough people get what they want.
Yeah.
The next quality is the quality of honoring. As we learn to honor people, it's a reciprocal quality. People honor us.
Yeah.
And when that happens, it helps to keep people hungry. One of the most important qualities in the second to last is the quality of connecting. I don't believe in the word communication. I like the word connecting.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, and so we connect, and as we connect, we stay hungry, and we help others stay hungry. And finally, the quality of resilience. And this ingredient is obviously a big one because sometimes when life hits us hard, we need to stay resilient, and we need to not get caught in the pity party and keep moving.
Yeah, I love that. Because it's so easy. And, everybody wants to join your pity party. It's so amazing to me how many people are willing to commiserate with you and not as many people willing to assist you in your process of stepping out of the party.
Yeah.
And so I became very, very clear and very aware of that's not helpful to me. Don't commiserate. Don't tell me it's tough because, I want you to remind me that I'm tougher.
Yeah.
And that's an important component because pity party, that's entertaining for so many of 5 minutes, and then it's old.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And I think the key around resilience that we talk about is we look at how do we stay resilient, but we talk also about the will. And at the end of the day, there is a will inside each of us that moves us forward, but it needs to be a collective will. And we need to have people around us that will help, keep our will strong or our spirit strong so that, we can combat times like that. I need that. You need that.
Yeah.
And that's why we're in a community.
Yeah. This is a subject I wanted to talk to you about because I think it's important as far as boys go. For me, boys are really, really alive. And when a boy is really alive, which means passionate about what they're doing, then it's hard for them to sit still. And so frequently in sports, I'll be watching a boy that has an incredible grasp of their attention, where they can move it so quickly that to an untrained eye, it would appear as if they were ADHD, but their entire attention goes from the ball to the next player to the next player. If they're upset, they can step out of that play and go right into the next pitch. And, I'm interested in your comment on that because and I hear often kids tell me, oh, well, I'm ADHD, but then I'll watch them on the basketball court so focused on the ball and getting it from the other player.
I'm not a psychologist in that area, but or have been schooled in understanding totally this, but I certainly have seen some practical examples of it, and I'm told all the time by experts that the world of school, which I struggled with a little bit early, and then later in life, ended up getting a master's degree, but I'm told that the process of school is sometimes difficult for some specific personality of people. And so, I find that even in sport, we have a lot of information that has to be assimilated in the game of hockey or football or baseball or basketball. When you think of, the body making the moves it needs to make, and then the brain having to, connect with all of the systems, and you have to be here and you have to watch this and you have to read this. So, I always say to people that you have to be brilliant to play sport, actually, because of all the different movements that, the brain has to do at once. But it is different, and it is very different often than learning. So I found at the sport level that, some people are very visual. They have to see it, and they can't be told it on a piece of paper. And some people are great at, words and paper and diagrams. So, I'm with you there. I don't know quite how to explain it, but sometimes sport's a good metaphor for the person that feels like they have those types of pieces in their life.
Yeah. You're bringing up another point. Was I understanding correctly that these 7 qualities that you were discussing, that they're in each person at different degrees?
Yes, and that's a great point. And in the book, too, we talk about that every person alive has a hungry spirit. Mm-hmm. But for some it's bruised, and for others it's battered, and for others it's operating at a high level. And so really what we're trying to do with Hungry is make sure that people have a chance to explore why they get hungry and what they're hungry about. And so the 7 qualities are absolutely within every person. Plus, I think they're not only an ingredient and a quality, but they're also a function. If you and I maybe don't have we haven't spent the time to create a vision for our life of what we really want to achieve, well, that's something that's doable. You can sit down and walk through a vision mapping process and say, I can see now where my life needs to go. And when you do that, then you're hungry towards making that happen. The other thing, I saw a great story the other day of the gentleman that climbed Mount Everest first, and Hillary was his name. I almost forgot it there. And Hillary had a great story. He climbed Everest, but didn't conquer it the first time. And he was he was asked to speak at a Rotary event, and they had a big picture of Mount Everest, and they introduced Sir Edmund Hillary as the person that attempted to climb Mount Everest. And Hillary went over to the mountain, the picture of the mountain. He shook his fist at the mountain. He said, "Everest," he said, "you conquered me this time." He said, "I failed." He said, "But I won't fail next time because you've grown all you can grow, but I haven't stopped growing."
Wow.
And I thought, really that's the essence of what we want to come out in the Hungry Spirit. How do we maximize who we are in, where we're at today? And to do that, we must maximize our Hungry Spirit.
Yeah. You have a quote here that I think is brilliant from Australian Matthew Kelly, the author of The Rhythm of Life. It is the quest to improve ourselves, Kelly says, to be all we are capable of being, to test our limits and to grow steadily towards the best version of ourselves that brings meaning to our lives.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, it's fabulous. It's just
I
fabulous.
like that thought by Matthew Kelly, and I thought it really set up what we want to say, with the hungry spirit, and that is that it's not about, where we find ourselves. It's not about our environment. It's not about where we grew up. It is about who we are and how we can maximize who we are, and really that's the exploration or the journey of the hungry spirit.